The day Adaora first locked eyes with Ekene, the wind refused to move and even the stream seemed to hold its breath. It was as if the spirits themselves paused, waiting. Their connection was instant, fierce, and forbidden. A freeborn maiden. And an OSU fisherman. In Umuagu, that was more than love, it was war. Whispers turned to rumors. Rumors turned to threats. And threats grew into a storm that shook every corner of the village. Warriors sharpened their machetes. Elders gathered under the Iroko tree with fear in their eyes. The land had strict laws, and Adaora had broken the greatest of them. She had given her heart to a man the ancestors were said to reject, but Adaora did not tremble. Ekene did not run. Together, they stood against a tradition older than memory, a hatred deeper than the river's root, and a danger that could swallow them both. This is the story of two hearts who challenged a village and awakened a revolution. Adaora was the most admired maiden in Umuagu village. Her beauty was the kind that made elders pause in mid-speech and made young men whisper prayers under their breath. Every morning, she walked to the stream with her clay pot balanced gracefully on her head, humming softly like she carried the spirit of the forest within her. It was on one of those mornings that she met Ekene, a quiet and hardworking young man who fished at the riverbank. Their eyes locked unexpectedly, one moment holding water pots, the next moment holding their breath. Something stirred between them, something warm, powerful, and frightening. Ekene greeted her politely, and she responded shyly, but the connection had already taken root like a seed planted in fertile soil. From that day, their paths crossed again and again, sometimes by coincidence, sometimes not. Adaora noticed the gentleness in Ekene's eyes, the careful way he spoke, and the pride he carried even though he had little. Ekene admired Adaora's courage, the way she challenged men in debates during moonlight gatherings, and the compassion she showed to widows and children. But in Umuagu village, love was never simple. Rumors soon began to spread. Ekene was OSU, a slave descendant dedicated to the gods generations before. Freeborns like Adaora were forbidden from marrying OSU. The law was unshakable, ancient, and enforced with cruelty. Still, each time Adaora and Ekene met at the stream, the feeling between them deepened, pushing them toward a fate forbidden by the land itself. When the rumors reached Adaora's father, Obioka, he summoned her immediately. His deep voice thundered through the compound as he asked her if she had been meeting Ekene. Adaora trembled but refused to lie. "Yes, Papa," she said, her voice steady. Obioka's face darkened like a storm cloud. He reminded her that she was the daughter of a proud freeborn lineage, and that their ancestors had never mixed their blood with that of an OSU. "If you continue with this boy," he warned, "you will bring shame upon our household and attract the anger of the gods." Adaora felt tears burning in her eyes, but her heart remained firm. She loved Ekene, not for his status, but for the goodness she saw in him. Still, she knew the consequences could be devastating. Far across the village, Ekene faced his own troubles. Elders warned him that freeborn maidens were never meant for people like him. "Do not bring fire upon yourself," they said. "Do not drag the girl into disgrace." Ekene listened silently, but inside, he battled a storm. He had grown used to rejection all his life, but this was different. Adaora's love had awakened something fierce in him, a desire to fight, to rise, to break the chains that generations had carried. But in Umuagu village, no one had ever defeated the OSU stigma. Ekene wondered if he was foolish to dream. Yet each time Adaora smiled at him, hope flickered again. Refusing to die. Trouble escalated when Chibik, a proud freeborn warrior who had long desired Adaora, discovered that she loved Ekene. Jealousy burned in him hotter than the afternoon sun. He swore that no slave-born fisherman would steal what he considered his. One night, under the cover of darkness, he gathered a group of young men and went to Ekene's hut. They dragged him outside, beat him mercilessly, and warned him to leave Adaora alone or face worse. Bloodied and barely able to stand, Ekene refused to speak a word. His silence angered Chibik even more, but Ekene's spirit remained unbroken. When Adaora learned what happened, her heart shattered. She cried as she cleaned his wounds, vowing never to let anyone hurt him again. But their struggles were only beginning. Chibik spread lies through the village, convincing some elders that Ekene was using charms to deceive Adaora. Fear began to grow among the villagers. Some said Adaora was under a spell, others insisted the gods would punish the entire community if a freeborn girl married an OSU. A secret meeting was held by the village council to discuss the abomination. Adaora overheard whispers of a plan to send Ekene away permanently, either through exile or through death disguised as accident. For the first time, Adaora felt true terror. Love had brought joy into her life, but now it was pulling her into a war that threatened everything she cherished. During the next full moon festival, Adaora visited the shrine of Eneni Miri, the river goddess. She knelt before the sacred pool, tears dropping into the water as she pleaded for guidance. The wind around her stilled. The water rippled though nothing touched it. A soft voice echoed through her heart, "Love that is pure must not be destroyed by chains forged from fear. The land will change, but the brave must lead the way." Adaora gasped. Was it the goddess speaking, or her own heart awakening? Either way, she felt strengthened. She returned home with new fire in her spirit, ready to challenge the old traditions. She told the king of her vision, and though he was afraid, he believed her. For the first time, he allowed himself to imagine a future free from the curse of his birth, but the council did not remain idle. They announced a public gathering to cleanse the land of forbidden relationships. When Adaora stepped forward, declaring her love for Ekene in front of the entire village, chaos erupted. Women gasped. Men shouted. Chibik lunged at Ekene, but Adaora stood between them like a lioness protecting her mate. Her defiance shocked everyone. Some elders called for punishment. Others hesitated, troubled by her courage. The tension in Umuagu grew so thick it became a shadow hovering over every compound. Still, Adaora refused to bend. Her love had become a rebellion. Chibik made one final attempt to destroy Ekene. He challenged him to a public wrestling match, knowing Ekene was weaker and hoping the humiliation would end Adaora's affection. The entire village gathered at the arena, drums pounding like thunder. Ekene stepped forward, nervous but determined. Adaora prayed silently, gripping her mother's wrapper tightly. The fight began. Chibik attacked fiercely, overpowering Ekene again and again. But each time Ekene fell, he stood back up, fueled not by pride but by love. At the final moment, when Chibik charged with full force, Ekene shifted aside and used Chibik's own strength against him, sending him crashing to the ground. The crowd gasped. Chibik had been defeated by an OSU. The atmosphere changed instantly. For the first time, some villagers looked at Ekene with respect rather than disgust. Adaora's father, watching from a distance, saw the truth in his daughter's tears and Ekene's courage. Slowly, doubt began to crack the stone of his belief. But the council still clung to tradition. They insisted the union must not happen. A storm of division swept across Umuagu, some arguing for change, others clinging to the old ways. Ekene knew that even though he won the fight, the true battle was yet to come. And Adaora knew that if she must stand against the entire village to protect the man she loved, she would do so without fear. Everything changed one night when a mysterious illness struck the children of the village. Nothing worked, not herbs, not chants, not sacrifices. In desperation, the elders turned to Eneni Miri's priestess. She declared that the land was being punished, not because a freeborn loved an OSU, but because the village had allowed hatred and injustice to rule their hearts. The gods do not recognize freeborn or slave, she said. They see only the purity of people's spirits. The revelation shook the village like lightning splitting a palm tree. Elders stood speechless. Even Chibik felt shame. Adaora and Ekene were summoned before the council, and for the first time, the old men bowed their heads, not in submission to the couple. But in surrender to truth, in a historic moment, the council abolished the OSU system in Umuagu village. Drums thundered. Joy erupted. Mothers danced. Men shouted praises. Adaora ran into Ekene's arms, tears flowing freely as the village celebrated their triumph. Obioka blessed their union, finally seeing the man his daughter had chosen not through the eyes of tradition, but through the eyes of truth. In the months that followed, Adaora and Ekene became symbols of courage and change. Their love had faced hatred, violence, and ancient fear, but it conquered all. And in the heart of Umuagu, their story lived on for generations, proving that love, when true, can break even the oldest chains.